Hello, everyone. And, okay, it's not Britain's Hanging Hour, but it's something close. I'm here with my good buddy, Shay. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Britton. How are you? How have you been?
I'm doing good, even though, we've been hanging out for the past, 10 minutes here, but, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, it's my sports ball team won today. We're going to talk about this comic book. It's going to be fun for,
Heck yeah.
for Halloween season. But yes,
Mhm.
we are talking about, Alan Moore's seminal run on Swamp Thing, Saga the Swamp Thing. Here's my copy. This is the first volume, by the way. I didn't want to bring all my other ones because I didn't
A
want
lot
to.
of volume.
I didn't want to do all the hassle. Basically, I should get a omnibus, but I've heard the omnibus recolored them, which is kind of annoying
Ooh.
because like the colors in this are magnificent. I think, but whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, um, but ever since I heard Shay say he really loves Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, I'm like, we got to talk about it as soon as possible. And you're like, hell yeah, I'm down. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, as proof of my devotion to this run, I kind of put it in my top five comic book runs ever. Like I have issue 32, which is one of my favorites. I have it framed because it's amazing, and also I have, because they were selling it, issue 37, which is first appearance of John Constantine.
Ooh.
Hopefully they do one for the anatomy lesson at some point, or I can find the anatomy lesson, because that would just be amazing, because I love that issue.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That was like his third or fourth issue on Swamp Thing. It was
Yeah,
really
it
early.
was I that's the one where it really begins, I think.
Mhm.
Because I think the other issue was like, okay, we're gonna wrap up all the stuff the other guy did, and
Yeah.
boom, bombshell. But I've been yapping here. Zach, you really love this run.
Mhm.
What about Alan Moore's Swamp Thing do you love so much? Just to kind of start out.
Well, so I started Swamp Thing not really knowing what the vibe was. I kind of like saw the covers. I'm like, okay, so this is kind of like a Creature from the Black Lagoon type vibe. And it really, to me, is like it reminds me a lot of like Hellboy, Constantine, Dresden Files, like urban fantasies. Like you have this
Mm.
monster, but then you also have like short stories within Swamp Thing where you follow different characters. You have that werewolf issue. You
Mm-hmm.
have like there's so many. Oh my gosh, the plantation where they're shooting the movie.
Yeah,
You have all
that's a
these
good
like
one. Yeah.
horror centric issues, and then but the overarching narrative is that like sort of romance between Abby Arcane and the Swamp Thing, and the Swamp Thing's own reckoning with what he is and who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the personal aspect, but then I also loved how Alan Moore would kind of use these characters as a background to tell other horror short stories.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I really like Swamp Thing because it's very different from a lot of his other works. Because if you read something like Watchmen or V for Vendetta or From Hell,
Mhm.
it's very focused. Like there's a
Right.
specific thing that Alan wants to say in this, um, and he does it very well, I think. And I couldn't get into From Hell personally, but V for
Mhm.
Vendetta and Watchmen, of course, I think are brilliant. But there's
Agreed.
something about Swamp Thing's kind of sprawling. Alan was just kind of, I don't want to say he was phoning it in, because I don't think he was. I think towards the latter end, he was starting to kind of go like, okay, when am I
Throwing
gonna?
everything in the
Yeah,
kitchen sink
pretty much.
everywhere.
Yeah. Um. But I really like that. It wasn't like he didn't have a specific thing he needed to say. It's just kind of him
Mhm.
just playing around, seeing what worked and what didn't.
Right.
Which I can't give it all to him. I know some of the, I know that the artists he worked with, like John Toddleben and Stephen Bissett, who did much of the Swamp Thing run
Mhm.
with Alan. Some of the ideas they did were theirs. Like I think Nuke Face was their idea, and Alan was like,
Okay.
"Yeah, cool, let's do it."
Mhm.
Um, there was probably some other ones I can think of. If anyone is familiar with Swamp Thing, let me know.
Mhm.
But it's also interesting, like, because a lot of my favorites, kind of like what you were saying, a lot of them are like, just the short stories you would do. Like, I like the werewolf one I really enjoy, and my personal favorite of like the single issues is Pog which is issue
Oh,
32,
so good.
which is like the like I'm trying to keep it spoiler free for the moment as we're beginning here, but like that is like the most like just unexpectedly heart-wrenching thing I have ever read. Like it is beautifully done.
It
Um
goes from comical to heartbreaking
yeah,
and
no.
like so quickly.
Oh, it's brutal. But yeah, no, it's like there's a lot of things you could say about Swamp Thing. Like, yeah, it basically started Vertigo. It
Mhm.
was also this was Alan's first American work. Like this was the first
Right.
one DC was just like, go at it, kid. And he's basically like, oh, okay, and then it's what we ended up getting.
Mhm.
We were talking about this earlier before we started recording. I don't know where I put this in my like Alan Moore rankings, but it's definitely my top 5. I think he
Oh,
really he really tapped into something. At least,
it's definitely top one for me. Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's your
have to put it
favorite.
at my number one. Yeah.
Which again, that's interesting. I've heard a couple of my friends say that.
Mhm.
So you're not alone in that. But
I also really, when we were talking before we started recording, I forgot to mention this. I also really love Miracle Man. Like that's probably in my
yeah,
top three as well. And that's kind of a more longer form narrative.
mm-hmm,
But again, Swamp, it's still a lot more focused, even though it's a longer. It's more than 12 issues. I forget
mm-hmm.
how long it is, but it's longer than Watchmen and V for Vendetta. But it's also really focused. Whereas you said with Swamp Thing, it's a much broader story.
Yeah, like you said, I guess if there is kind of an arc, well, one that's pretty much kind of spoilery, but the other one is Swamp Thing getting with Abby Arcane
Mhm. Yeah.
slash Holland.
Yep.
Which is like it's kind of funny because like they do kind of play with that in towards the end where they're like kind of sussy, but it's kind of well done at the same time.
It's it's like so incredibly weird, but also pretty wholesome at the same time. Like it gives like I'm giving it side eye, but I'm also like, oh, like it's a pretty sweet story, low key.
And
If you can look past the weirdness.
also it's where we met Constantine as well. John Constantine,
Mhm.
who's become a fan favorite over the years. Even though again, Alan Moore has just kind of gone like, I don't want to, I don't want to deal with that. um, but yeah, it's interesting. I think Swamp Thing is probably my favorite deconstruction he's ever done. Like,
Right.
I think like Miracle Man is really great too. I really love how he flipped that kind of story on its ear. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I think the Anatomy Lesson is like one of the best things he's ever done. I think it is like the best like superhero deconstruction he's done. Just like how he just completely like flips the Swamp Thing origin on its ear. I love it. I think it's great.
I would agree. I think that and Miracle Man both they kind of like have you read Miracle Man?
Yeah, I've read Miracle Man.
There's a moment in Miracle Man that's just like the Anatomy Lesson almost, where he kind of like finds out the truth behind the myth that he believed for
Mm-hmm.
so long, very similar to. Again, I'm staying vague,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the Anatomy Lesson. Well, it was the first I had read of the Alan Moore's deconstruction, so it hit a little bit harder. But I do think it's the better executed version. But I think they're both really well done.
Yeah, no, it's like Miracle Man's interesting because like that was one of the first like big things Alan Moore did. So like
Mhm.
you can tell there's a little bit of like trial and error, kind of him figuring out what works.
Right.
Um, like Swamp Thing, I think is more. I don't know. It's a more what? No pun intended, by the way. It's I don't want to say it's better executed. It is, but like I don't know. It's like Alan Moore, like he knows who he is at this point.
Right.
He's he knows what he wants to do. He has a much better control. I think is a better way to
I
put
feel
it.
like it's bolder. It's
Yes,
bolder, and he's more confident,
yes, that
and
yeah.
you can feel it. So I think in
Like,
both works, his actual like dialogue and exposition, like within the word bubbles, like I think Alan Moore has some of the best like prose within comics
oh yeah, for sure.
at that
There's
time, and still to this day. Still to this day, I can read an Alan Moore line and go, that's more.
yeah, no, it's um he's really good at like setting a scene.
Mhm.
While also using, the comic medium because it's also visual.
Right.
But like one of the things I really like about Alan Moore's stuff is he really uses the comic medium
Mhm.
to its fullest potential. I mean, Watchmen's kind of the easy, pointer. But I think Swamp Thing does it just as much. There's some
Right.
really out there stuff he pulls off in this run.
Mhm.
Like there's one
And
issue where it's like literal like space weirdness. Like there's like this god thing. It's really bizarre. Um, I can't even
yeah.
describe it. Like I don't know what that was, but I think it was towards the end. He was kind of like, okay, we'll just throw whatever I got. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's
Mhm.
go. You know. Um,
If you remember the Planet of Plant People, that was
that was
that was
fun.
like one of the moments where I was like, okay, Alan, you may need to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, no, yeah, I will say, I've had friends who've said it kind of peters out towards the end, which, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I could see where they're coming from. There's some of those stories where it does kind of feel a little phoned in towards the end, but I do
Right.
think the actual ending is really good.
Mhm.
Um,
I was recently this is one of the reasons I'm so excited to have this discussion, but I was recently talking to Sam from I Samwise about Swamp Thing. Like I told him how I was reading Sandman and I was kind of not jiving with it perfectly, and I was like, "Oh, it really feels like Swamp Thing." And he thought that Swamp Thing was like purely like a horror creature from the Black Lagoon comic, and that's like all it was. And I was like, "No, dude, it's like
oh
all the
no, I
DC
mean, it
occult
started
stuff."
out that way. I'll give him this. It started out
Right.
that way, but like once Alan Moore took it over, we'll get into it.
Within the first trade, he kind of already deconstructs that.
hmm And it's
Maybe the
like
second one.
Like, I mean, really, Swamp Thing. If I could put it in like a sentence, it's basically Alan Moore doing what he does best. Really, is taking
Mhm.
this established character and just kind of tilting it a little and being like, let's look at it this way,
Right.
and somehow it becomes even more interesting than what was originally there, while
Mhm.
also respecting what came before.
Mhm.
Like Alan Moore is one of the best retconners of all time. I think.
Mm.
Like he
Mm.
might like again God bless. Hope he doesn't, shoot me with like weird Magus spells for saying it, but like I think he is one of the best retconners of all time. Like I really do
Mhm.
think so.
And with he does it in a way that like doesn't diminish the characterization that came before, but just kind
Mhm.
of like redirects.
Mhm.
And both with Miracle Man and with Swamp Thing, he makes all the characterization that came before that has been retcon still matter
Mhm.
in the way he retcons it. So, did you have a lot of experience with Swamp Thing prior to reading this, or did you do any reading
Um
up on?
I read like the first couple issues that like Len Wein and
Mhm.
Bernie Wrightson did, which are pretty good actually. Bernie Wrightson um underrated, or I don't know if he's underrated because he is very like horror fans really like him because he was phenomenal, but very underrated I think in general. Or well, I might catch myself. There might be some comments if they show up. They'll be like, "No, Bernie Wrightson's great. You're just gay." Whatever. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know why that's my go-to insult, but you're wrong, I guess. I don't know. But but this is what made me a fan. I'll say that. I have kind of a soft spot for Swamp Thing after reading this. I read Scott
Mhm.
Snyder's run on Swamp Thing a few years ago, and I was kind
Mhm.
of let down a little bit cuz they kind of walked back a little bit some of the stuff they did with Alan Moore where he kind of, um
I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah. um but yeah, no, but yeah, it was this series I think that made me like yeah, Swamp
Mhm.
Thing, like yeah. I'm sure
Yeah.
you'll appreciate this. The one Swamp Thing story I really have enjoyed in recent years was the Swamp Thing Winter Special from a few years ago that Tom King
Tom
did.
King.
That was a great story. I loved that. Was a great one. I think
I need to find that. I need to.
it's actually one of my favorite Tom King stories. That was really
Mm.
really good. Um, but yeah,
I think Tom King is someone who would be perfect to write a character. Like I could just tell from the way he like panels, the way he does the Alan Moore 9-panel grid in a
hmm
lot of his works that he would like really
I think he does
uh
that to the best effect in Mr. Miracle, which again I'm sure you'll appreciate me shouting that out. It is
the
a great
best
book.
comic ever.
Um, but yeah, I mean, another thing I really like about this, just kind of get non-spoiler out of the way, but I really love the thought that Alan Moore. That's another thing I really enjoy with his superhero work. Is just like the thought he put into it, like not just like okay, what if this certain thing happened, but also he thinks as hard as like how would this thing speak, like how would it talk, like how would it move.
Yeah.
There's an old interview. You could probably find it on YouTube, but it's very young Alan Moore, young idealistic Alan Moore before he kind of went full weird occult stuff and got pissed off at DC. And it's like him just describing like what he was thinking when he was writing it, and it's really fascinating stuff. But again, I don't want to overshadow you. What are some stuff like non-spoilery that you liked with
Oh
Swamp
no, no,
Thing?
no, you're hitting it on the head. I I really love like you said, the thought he puts and honestly for me, I kind of understand why he has some frustration with the comic book industry because
No,
I
I,
feel
I
like
understand. It's just kind of, it is kind of a meme at this point.
yeah. But I feel
it's
like
it,
the way the comics industry didn't take him seriously, he took these characters seriously in a way that other writers were not at the time. Um Like, and not to say that like the original creators of Swamp Thing weren't like, as I've said, I hadn't read that, but um, I know reading similar comics from that time period, I don't think the level of thought he brought to Swamp Thing was really seen a lot at that time, or even still to this day.
yeah, no,
So
it's
I know one of his proteges, he who must not be named.
yeah, yeah,
In an interview, he was talking about Miracle Man actually, and he was like, Alan Moore did something that no one else was really doing at that time, and he just took the stories a little bit more seriously. And I feel like that, especially when you look at something like Anatomy Lesson, where he thinks of it, where I think there's a mention of a wooden larynx and
yeah.
mentions
And like again, just
all
how it talks. Like there's pauses in how it talks
right.
because it's trying to replicate being a person. Which again, that's kind of a little spoiler, but we'll get into it. But yeah, no, sorry. Continue what you were saying. I
And
agree, is what I'm saying.
I yeah, I agree with you as well. And I mean, he does this with all of his characters. I think he does like with John Constantine, which I think is an Alan Moore original character, right? That
Yes.
he first appeared on the pages
I
of
think that was
Swamp Thing.
also another one that was beset in Toddleman's idea, and I think Alan went with it because.
Mhm.
But yes, that is one of his characters. Yeah, even though he would probably be like, he's not mine anymore. DC
Like,
sucks.
I
But
disown him.
no, but yeah, it's a great run. It will probably ruin a lot of other superhero stuff for you. It did for me because it was after a while.
Mhm.
I was kind of like, damn, like what else is gonna come after this? Come
Yeah,
on.
I
um,
know. For me, on like the DC sort of occult magic-y side of DC Comics, I have not found anything to the quality of Swamp Thing.
yeah, no.
Um,
I agree. Yeah, it's and he also kind of started the trend of here, let's take these weird British guys from 2000 AD and let them have a crack at some of our lesser known characters. What could possibly go wrong? Um,
mhm.
Fortunately, not much. That was a good idea, we'll say. And also, it's actually Karen Berger, who who was the editor of Vertigo for a very long time. That's where she came up, was doing Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. She was his editor.
Oh, okay.
And she was also the editor of a few other things. Sandman, of course, is probably the other very famous one she did. A lot of the other British invasion comics, I can't think of many off the top of my head at the moment. So if anyone in the audience wants to name off of the other stuff she did, feel free. But yeah. So yeah, this comic did a lot, but it's also just really good, I think. It was one of the first that was like, hey, these superheroes could actually be done, like, with depth, which wasn't new, by the way. I mean, like, Frank Miller was doing Daredevil, and Claremont was doing the X-Men, but this was like, this one just, like I said, it kind of ruined superhero comics for me for a little bit. I was like, damn, like, what could be better than that?
Yeah.
It also kind of turned me into a sucker for, like, taking these, like, older kind of forgotten characters and flipping them and being like, okay, let's see what would happen, So there you go. That's really all I gotta say on the non-spoiler front. So if you want to,
it was pretty instrumental in making me a writer follower. Like, I had no interest in Swamp Thing as a character prior to, like, I'm like, it was really Alan Moore's name on the comic that sold it. Much like with Miracle Man. Well, I mean, I guess his name's not on that comic, but much like with that book, it was really just the Alan Moore of it that sold me on it. And like, even with like works to come out of the past decade, it's very rarely like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman comic books that have been grabbing me. It's usually like these characters that I hadn't really heard of from a creator I really like Tom King's Miracle Man, and
Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, Mr. Miracle. The wrong MM, but yeah, he kind of made me realize, like, okay, it's not these characters that I'm just attached to. It's very much the creators, and yeah, dude.
I gotta read Fourth World at some point. I need to catch up on Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby,
who is also mentioned a couple times. He actually, Etrigan the Demon, who is a Kirby creation. Alan Moore's a big Jack Kirby fan, so I bet he had a lot of fun, bringing in these kind of forgotten, kind of occult characters, like the Phantom Stranger and Etrigan, and who else? He's brought in a couple people.
Etrigan's a character that just really never goes out of style. Like, he's so corny and he's so on the nose.
From what I've heard, I think Jack Kirby hated him. Like, he really didn't like that character all that much. But
really,
yeah, it's probably just a pain in the ass to write all the rhyming. Probably.
Tell you what, Kirby character has not. Have you heard of the Black Racer from his Fourth World comics?
Oh, I think I've seen some videos talking about it.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I keep in my mind, it's like, okay, well, at that time there was not a lot of diversity in comics. So like, Jack Kirby was probably trying to be like a civil rights activist, but it's like, looking at it through today's lenses, it's like, this is very problematic.
Yeah, that's kind of a given, It's like watching The Shield nowadays. You're like, oh, there's some that hasn't aged very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, do you have anything else to say about Swamp Thing that's like non-spoiler specific?
Love the anthology aspect of it. I mean, it's not a true anthology, but it's anthology adjacent. Love the sort of romance between Swamp Thing and Abby. I think that's a pretty vague spoiler.
It's not, I mean, that was always kind of a thing, but yeah, it's really developed here. So no, it's not really. I don't think it's a big spoiler.
And just loved what he did with the character of Swamp Thing. Great dialogue and prose writing, exposition writing. He really.
I think my favorite. Sorry, I don't mean it. I'm really bad at interrupting you this evening. I think my favorite kind of Alan Moore setting the scene part of this run is the one, the one where he's sitting kind of like All-Star Superman cover, where he's sitting like this, and Abby's sleeping. I love that image. It's probably my favorite like single image from the whole series.
It's a full spread, right?
Yeah,
he's like gazing off into the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I know
actually
exactly
it's
what
funny.
you're
It's funny. I think you actually read it for your video. I think that
talking
was
about.
the part you. Maybe I could be wrong. I'd have to go back and watch it. But yeah, that's probably like my favorite like single image from the whole thing. Just
Yeah.
so good. Um, but yeah. Well, I guess we've been dancing around for a little bit. Let's get to the actual like spoilery part of it.
The
So
meat and
the
potatoes.
meat and potatoes. Yes. We get into the guts of
Yeah.
the Swamp Thing. So really, to keep it simple, if this doesn't hook you, forget it. So Swamp Thing starts out as a guy, Alec Holland. He's playing with a lot of those fun comic book chemicals. They end up blowing up and turn him into, all the fun stuff that fun comic book chemicals do. He becomes the Swamp Thing and is kind of like, well, I'm a creature now. This sucks. Um, his main nemesis is a guy called Anton Arcane, who's this like really creepy, like really body horror stuff. But Alan Moore takes it and goes, but what if it were a plant that thought it was a man, and just all over. You're just like, what is this? I mean,
Yeah.
I always think of, I'm always like, God, I mean, imagine like, I don't know, this was like 1984, I think, when he first started. Like, imagine being like a reader and you like pick that up and just, what were you thinking? I don't know.
Mhm.
But, it's brilliant. Again, the anatomy lesson, which is like the second or third issue of the Swamp Thing run, might be
Mhm.
my favorite single issue of all time. Like, it is
Mm.
just brilliant all the way through.
Oh, it's really good. It's so good. I also really love the imagery of whenever he is holding the skeleton of Alec Holland.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was so anatomy lesson. You start to put the pieces together that this is not Alec, but when he's actually like comes face to face with the remnants of Alec, I thought that was like, because still I'm like, well, is he confused? Like, what's going on? And then you're like, okay, so like you're not him, and you
Yeah,
never were.
it's like, what's the line? Let me find it. It's let me find it. You see, we were wrong, General. We thought the Swamp Thing was Alec Holland somehow transformed into a plant. It wasn't. It was a plant that thought it was Alec Holland. A plant that was trying its level best to be Alec Holland. End quote. And it's like, I'm like, what? What does that mean? And then he ends up reading the file, has a breakdown, and then this dummy, the general, I forget the guy's name, but this dummy right here is all like, do you
Oh,
like it?
so good.
And I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, you're just asking for it, and then he gets killed.
Mhm.
Which, of course, the Floronic man who does
Yeah.
the autopsy, that was what he was counting on. Because like, I guess the general screwed him over somehow. Was like, go away, like, whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, and then he like turns it down and springs Swamp Thing on him.
I
So,
think he was doing an investigation on the Swamp Thing
mhm,
as part of like his release from prison.
yeah,
Like he was allowed to come here work on Swamp Thing, and then he like got the general all the information. The general's like, "Well, you're going back to prison," and he's like, "Oh, well,
he's
I
like,
know something you
well,
don't."
actually,
Yeah,
no. It's yeah, but it's so yeah, that's basically the pitch for this whole series. It's like, it's basically, what if this plant elemental, because we end up figuring out that Swamp Thing isn't just a
right.
man who got turned into a swamp creature. He's actually part of this like mystical
The green.
force called the Green, yes, which, for better or for worse, that has stayed on throughout the Swamp Thing's run since this. Um but yeah, we end up learning that he's a part of this thing called the Green, and it picks like avatars to,
Mhm.
um to oh crap, what's it, to protect the earth, basically.
Right.
Like, he has to stop Floronic Man in the first little kind of mini arc that they do. Because Floronic Man's all like, well, you see, human. He's one of those like he's like an eco terrorist basically. He's all like, well, we
Mhm.
humans, we're just destroying the environment. Well, I'm gonna take over, and we're gonna the planet's gonna take over, whatever. And Swamp Thing's like, no.
And he's like, well, like you say that you care about the plants of the world, but like who's breathing out the carbon dioxide? People are. And when I was reading that, I was like, but low key, like mammals would still be breathing. And I think that was Swamp Thing thinking about Abby. But
Yeah,
I was like, low key, I think the plants would still be here. There would be enough atmospheric carbon dioxide.
yeah,
But
he doesn't like. It's interesting in Swamp Thing because he doesn't go full Miracle Man. Because in Miracle Man, kind of spoilery, he sort
Mhm.
of or Doctor Manhattan from Swamp or not Swamp Thing, Watchmen. He kind of
Mhm.
drifts away from humanity as he
Yeah,
kind of discovers, oh,
I'd say
I'm
that for both of them.
this being, which Swamp Thing kind of does that too, but he still has that like connection to other people, Abby mainly.
Abby, especially, this is his tether to his
I was about to say,
humanity.
I think if he didn't have Abby, he would probably be like, Dr. Manhattan or, maybe not Miracle
Agreed.
Man. I don't think he would like take over the world. He's just kind of, he'd probably be like Dr.
Be
Manhattan
more apathetic, and like
doing his
Miracle
own
Man
thing over
is
here.
like the worst version of that. He's like, the only way to protect everyone is to control them.
Yeah, let's
And
take
then,
everything. Let's take it over.
whereas Dr. Manhattan's like, the only way to, oh wait, I actually don't care, so I'm just gonna
No
go to
way.
Mars. Like,
We gotta go to Mars. Yeah, exactly.
so I
Um,
feel like he would probably just like go into the woods and sequester himself. And if there ever became a threat to the Green, he would dispatch it, but he wouldn't be part of the world how he is with Abby. And I mean, he does care about other people besides Abby, but I think
mhm.
Abby is always his moral compass.
His anchor.
Like, exactly, anchor. That's exactly how I'd put it.
But yeah, no, it's so let me think. But yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing is that's kind of Swamp Thing's arc is kind of figuring out, okay, so I'm not Alec Holland, I'm this
Mhm.
weird plant thing who's part of this mystical, environmental thing. What's that like? And he ends up discovering he has all these abilities. He can literally like really creative. There's another panel I really like. I think it's in volume 3 of the volumes I have here, but it's when you see him kind of squirt up, and I really love how they do that. Now I'm thinking I probably should have brought my other volumes with me, but yeah, what can I do? But I love the creativity, I should say, of the art and how they use his abilities and how he's kind of like, oh, like I can do this now. And there's one part where he
Mhm.
literally goes to Gotham and turns it into a jungle basically, and even
Yeah.
Batman gets involved and he's like, get out of here, and just pimp slaps Batman, and Batman's like, okay, we're gonna have to do something about this because even I can't handle this.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
I love when like it's kind of like the first time he looks like pre-baby Groot, even when he's growing out of the
Oh yeah.
weeds. And Abby's like, "Oh, are you all right, Alec?" And he's like, "This little tiny tree person." And
Oh,
later
that's right.
on,
Yeah, and like there's one actually when after he figures out that he's not Alec Holland, he was this plant creature, and he's like part of the moss. Like he literally like let me see if I can find it actually. Um, but like he literally becomes like part of the moss, if you will.
Mhm.
Like you can like little see his little face. Hold on, let me see. Let me see. Uh. I can't find or I can't find it for whatever reason at the moment. And I just thank you, Kitty, for walking all over. Uh, no, that's the anatomy lesson. I'm not looking for the anatomy lesson. But there's one. Okay, there's one part of the book. I think it's right after he figures out what he is, and he's literally like part of the moss, and you can see his little face, and he's all like,
Mhm.
and you can see it, and Abby's like, oh my god, what's wrong, and he's all like, my identity has been shifted, basically. And like the first like arc is him kind of figuring out like, okay, this is my reality now, you know.
One thing I always thought was I never really understood what Alan Moore was doing with it, but Abby calls him Holland throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, did she ever really accept that he wasn't Alec?
I
Even though at this point she's known Swamp Thing way longer than she ever knew Alec Holland.
I think they do bring that up, and she's just calls him that to like just to be I think he even goes like, if you want to call me that, like, makes you more comfortable, that's fine. I think that's it, but I could be misremembering.
I think I just
But that's
now
an
that you
interesting
mention it,
theory. That's an interesting theory, though. That could be true as well. Because she's all like, "Well, what are you?" And he's all like, "Well, I am the Swamp Thing." And she's like, "Oh, okay, that's weird."
just gonna call him ST forever now.
Yeah,
I
ST
think. Yeah, it's
or
probably
Swampy.
best. Swampy. One of my favorite I say panels. One of my favorite pages that I felt did a lot to humanize the whole weirdness of it is whenever he this is after he learns to like form himself
Yeah.
again. When he forms himself in her living room and she's like, Alec, no, like I'm gonna have to get all this out of my apartment. It's filthy in here because he was getting all his swampy parts all over her
Oh yeah.
apartment. That just did a lot to really like show the slice of life aspect of Abby and Alec, or
Yeah.
Abby and the Swamp Thing that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, like going back to the artwork, we talk a lot about Alan Moore, but like the artwork in this is just like unbelievable. I just from the art to the colors, like I really love. This was a really great pairing. I don't know if I think it was serendipity, but like like in horror comics, like I don't generally get like creeped out,
Yeah.
but this is one of the rare ones I have to say. Like we're genuinely I don't know how like Bissett and Toddleman did it, but like just like with like they get like real close up to the face, and you can see like the weird, like it's really
Matthew when he's talking to the
to
little
the
like
fly.
fairy thing in his
Yeah,
head,
yeah,
when it's like right here, the camera's like right here.
yeah. Like way too close to the guy. Like it's freaky. Like one of the arcs is like there's this like demon who's haunting all these kids. Really freaky stuff, and like Etrigan shows up, and he's basically doing his Etrigan thing, and Alan has a lot of fun with that, because he's all like, oh, let's see what all he can rhyme.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's also like when it's also played for humor sometimes too, because like there's that part where the Floronic Man gets defeated and he basically like loses his mind and tries to like spray the stuff that makes him look like a regular person, and the Justice League show up, and he's all like, "Oh, hey, I'm just being a normal human," and like, we need to take him back to Arkham.
I'm normal.
He's like,
Yeah.
"Aha, yes, I am capital N normal," because I don't know, I guess like
I'm blanking on what was going on in this issue, but I think it's in volume 1 where it's like the devil came to town and it's that guy. He's like, yeah, you're going to have an accident later today. And then like a weird Final Destination things happen and the guy gets
that's
impaled by a
Etrigan. Yeah, that's Etrigan.
That's Etrigan. That was his human form.
Or yeah, here's a good example right here. Like it's real freaky. Like look at that. It's nasty.
Right here.
Like I think what makes it good is like the nastiness. Like there's like a nastiness to it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like really like disgusting. Like it's just like it's freaky, man. And
I feel like Sandman dials that nastiness up even more.
Yeah, when you get like Sam Keith, you can kind of play with caricature a little bit. But yeah, no, I see what you mean. It is also kind of funny how they deal with the little creature and the one with Etrigan. He's basically like the kid like spits him out, and then Etrigan's like, "Oh, let me take that," and just eats it. So there's that right there. That's pretty fun. That's another really great. I really love the ending, especially when the kid and Swamp Thing are kind of walking around, and he just like comforts the kid because the kid's all freaked out. And there's like it's really unexpected. I think that's the thing that really strikes me about Swamp Thing is just how like poignant it gets, very unexpectedly.
Yeah,
especially like in my favorite issue, which is this one of my favorite. Well, my favorite issue is the anatomy lesson, but my second favorite issue is this one, Pog. Which is basically about these like silly kind of animal creatures.
Looney Tune,
Yeah, and
Alien.
they have this weird lingo, and it's very whimsical. And they show up on Earth because they're trying to find a new planet because their old planet is falling away. That old story. And they meet Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing and them, they don't know how to talk to each other because language barriers, but they kind of reach an understanding. And one of them, who kind of looks like an alligator, starts swimming along, and unfortunately runs into some alligators, and it gets kind of and it mistakes it for like friends, and he gets killed. And it's like, and then they end up burying him, and they're like, well, this place is too unsafe. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even describe it. Just describing it, it's like, it's such like a moving thing. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Mhm. I agree. I actually started it, and I'm like, what is this weird little offshoot side episode? Like,
Right?
and I never skip issues, but I almost was like, is this one going to be necessary? And then it was about and then he did some fun things with like the text boxes where it was like, we're getting their point of view. So that when Swamp Thing's talking, we're like, we don't really know what's going on.
It's saying, yeah, it's like,
And
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like the adults and the peanuts, the and it wasn't until the little alligator alien. Like I remember just seeing how happy it was to see something that looked like
I
him,
know,
that
it's
resembled him.
it's so sad. Like,
Like it really,
it's
his
brutal.
dying moments was thinking that he found something in this vast universe like him, and then being torn apart by that.
It's oh my god, you're like, I'm getting like, I get like a tight feeling in my chest just like hearing you talk about it. Like, it is sad. Like,
It is.
I'm like,
can you imagine? He was like, "Oh, they're like me."
yeah, even goes like, oh look, it's like me. They look like me, and then it's like, nature's a bitch, man. Like, or at least sometimes. I mean, Swamp Thing's benign for the most part, but like, yep, nature's kind of a bitch sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
and it was like so avoidable too.
it's and they like bury him, and it's like, it's kind of absurd, but it's like, that's what makes it like poignant to me, is because like it does start out as like super absurd, and then it just goes into like, holy crap, like that is the freaking saddest thing I've ever encountered.
Yeah,
At least one of them, like, oh my god, like, it's, I mean, I own the issue, so I mean, that should tell you a lot. Now, if I could find the anatomy lesson somewhere, and it's not like $1,000, like, that would be great.
one of my favorite, I think it was a two-parter actually, so I
Mhm.
can't call it a little one-shot story, but I really loved the Plantation film set.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
That one was really good. And I think it needed those two issues, because the first issue, you're kind of getting like the guy who's playing the plantation owner is like this super liberal guy, and he's like getting on to the girl who's cast as the love interest, who's actually racist. He's like getting on to her like, hey, don't be racist. And she's like, I don't care, I'm racist. And then as they're playing the different parts,
And then they like becoming the part.
racist.
Yeah.
And then she becomes more like actually attracted to her co-star, and he's like confused. He's like, aren't you racist? And then by the end of it, they're all like, it's like the ghosts were inhabiting the people that were playing their parts. And oh, I loved it. 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 I love the fact that we had this film set, and then we had this like slave revolt through the eyes of the ghosts. Like, it's still fresh to them.
Yeah,
So,
it's almost
I
like
loved it.
like it's this weird like voodoo thing, I think, if I recall correctly. I also really like the like sea eel vampire story. I like that one. Especially like
Agreed.
when the kid gets like, and they're like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he's like, and he's all spooked. Again, especially with faces like Bissett and Toddleben. Like, again, I don't get creeped out by like comic art all that much, but like some of the uncanny valley they do in this is, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. Really sucks they didn't work more. Allen and Bissett and Toddleben. Though
Agreed.
Toddlebin actually did the very infamous issue of Miracle Man, it's probably the most horrific one.
Oh, the
The,
one
the
where
the big
Kid Miracle
fight.
Man.
Yeah, the big fight. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, that
that
one.
one's brutal. When I read that, I was like, "Oh, the boys and Invincible owe a lot to what I
Yeah.
just read."
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I
I don't
I
think
think
Invisible ain't got shit on on Miracle Man.
oh,
Oh my god.
Miracle Man. Like when we were talking about Sandman, and you were like, "Oh, but Alan Moore." You would say it's darker than Neil Gaiman. I was like, really? I was like, I would say Neil Gaiman's way darker. And then I remembered Miracle Man, and I was like, actually, no. I was like, they're on an
Yeah, I
even playing
mean,
field.
it's that was funny because we were talking about that, and I was thinking, I'm like, well, 24-hour diner's pretty fucked up. Yeah, like, yeah, so, I see what you mean, but yeah, no, but again with Bissett and Taliban, like, just like again, like just when they get like, especially when they get like super close up to people's faces and stuff, and you like see all the like pores and like I don't know I don't know how they do it. And like the scratchiness of it, like especially in mine, I don't know what yours looks like, but like there's like a scratchiness to the color,
Yeah,
which
I
shout
have
out
the
to
same editions as
which
you. I have this the sixth little.
which like shout out by the way to the old school comic book colorists. I really love the texture of like old like comic book colors,
Mhm.
just really
Agreed.
even in these like little single issues I have here, I think even have that. Yes, they do. Like, look at this paneling right here. It's just
Mm.
insane. Um, like, nothing really screwed up happens in this one. Actually, is it's just one that like, hello, John Constantine. Which again, hey DC. Oh, here's another really great panel of John Constantine in Rainbow. I really like that
Oh,
panel as well. Anyway, but what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the artwork. It's great.
mhm.
Mostly. Again, towards the end, they were kind of like revolving around, and Rick Veitch showed up, and he did some good work, and I think he actually followed up Alan after he left.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and
I would say so. It's 6 volumes, right?
yeah, at
Alan
least
Moore.
the one
I think
the
that
version I
sixth
have is six
volume.
volumes long. Yeah,
I think that sixth volume is probably the weakest,
yeah, I would
but
agree.
I still felt like the ending we got was very satisfying.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like from Gotham to the end, that arc he went on where Swamp Thing like went into space and Adam
hmm
Strange was there, and then there were the plant people. Like that was kind of bizarre. And
And then
while
like the
I
whole straight up turns into Star Trek the motion picture, where you're like, what is this?
like the sentient spaceship or whatever,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
issue honestly did not work that well for me. I was like,
That's funny.
okay.
One of my friends, his name's Chris. He actually really loves that issue, but then again, he likes weird, like experimental artsy stuff. So I mean, it clicks. But I was kind of like,
I won't
what
say
the
it was a
hell?
negative. I just don't think it was as good as earlier Swamp Thing.
No,
But
I
I don't think it
agree.
was bad.
I think
But
my favorite like experimental issue was the Boogeyman issue. I really where it's like from
oh, the
his point
Boogeyman
of
was so
view,
good.
and you can like, which is a similar trick that Moore and Dave Gibbons did in Watchmen. Like, there's a part where it's solely from Rorschach's view, and you can see it through his eyes.
Mhm.
I really like that.
Oh, dude, I love I guess it's not experimental, but the issue where like I don't even think Swamp Thing is in it. If he is, he's only in a couple panels, same with Abby.
hmm
But it's when they keep eating the fruit that grew
Oh
from his
yeah,
body.
I
Or the
had a
yam or
friend who
whatever it
hated that
was.
part. He's like, "What? Why? Like, why is that in there?" I'm like, "Well, I don't mind it so
I
much."
loved it. I loved it. I loved how the people who were like good people, they would take it and they would just have like the best trip ever. They're like, I'm spinning like a ballerina. And then the one who's like an actual like piece of he took it and he had like the word like nightmare fuel stuff going on. I loved it.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, that's a fun issue. Um, what's another one I really? I also like Nuke Face. It's a fun one, though.
Mhm.
It's basically like it's really freaking weird. Like it's like this weird guy who like drinks like toxic waste. Like ugh. Like That's probably the grossest issue of the whole series.
Yeah. And he makes other people drink it at times
Yeah.
too. And then oh, but it was sad though at the end where um the guy who was the CEO of the company that was doing all the toxic waste stuff,
Mhm.
his pregnant wife went and sat with the guy, and she was like super Christian, and she
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, we should heal the people who are in pain." And at the end of the issue, we find out that she's been infected with the thing.
Oh yeah, that was really sad. I forgot about that.
That was heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, why does she have to suffer for her husband's sin? But
Yeah, no, it's what's another issue I really liked? Well, I do like the John Constantine issues cuz, it's fun seeing him and Swamp Thing kind of interact and
I always thought it was funny how there was like a crisis event going on in like that third or fourth volume,
mhm.
and like Swamp Thing like walks up to the big crisis event happening, and then Alan Moore's like, anyway, we're going on this Swamp Thing adventure. Like he like just like almost tied it in, and then was like, but we're still doing our own thing
Yeah,
here.
no, like he shows him the Parliament of Trees. He ends up figuring out he gets like the meaning of the universe basically.
Yeah.
Um And John Constantine's kind of doing his thing, where he's kind of like, "Oh yeah, ha ha ha, I'm British. I smoke a lot of cigarettes."
And he's like, let's have a big occult meeting where we do the. And I remember
To
like
stop
everybody
the
just
big,
started dissolving in
to
the middle
start
of
like
that meeting.
the keep away the big like evil thing, where you're like, okay, like, all right,
I think he killed Zatanna's dad in that issue, right?
oh, or something like that. I think Satania's like, hell no, I'm not working with you. You're trying to you killed my dad. He's like, ancient history, get out of here. But it's I'll admit I actually think Garth Ennis's Hellblazer, that's really when Constantine becomes the Constantine everyone loves. But I do think Alan Moore set a very good template for Constantine. There's also, I don't know if you caught this, but there is a cameo from Alan Moore in one of the issues. You can see him walking around with some of the other
Really?
people. Yeah, it's fun. You're like, there he is. But I also, again, we were kind of talking about this. I actually really liked the romance between Abby and Swamp Thing.
Agreed.
Which is another kind of magical thing I find about this run, is that not only does he make this thing that would be kind of you would be kind of giving him the side eye a little bit, as you like to say. And it works though. I don't know how it does, but it works.
It really, really does.
And it's very poignant at parts.
I think honestly, and this is me only being 2 volumes in to Sandman, I think that's what was missing for me in Sandman is that very Abby Abby and Swamp Thing is weird, but it's also very wholesome. And I feel like that's the kind of light in the darkness with a lot of the Swamp Thing stories that become very morbid.
Morpheus is kind of a jerk, that's
I just was kind of I think I went in expecting Swamp Thing.
So he doesn't have as much of a tether until a little later on, but
okay,
a lot of it is him kind of okay, I'm back from this weird I don't want to make this a Sandman conversation. That that's right. For another time. But he doesn't there are a couple people who are kind of like that, Death, for instance, is kind of like that for him. Because I think one of the best issues of Sandman is The Sound of Her Wings, which is basically him moping around, and Death is like, here, come with me, doing my job, and he's like, fine, and he learns about the sanctity of life, and it's really beautiful.
I see that one. It struck me a little bit differently, and it could have been the mood I was reading it in. But just to juxtapose between Sandman and Swamp Thing, some of the deaths, I'm like, okay, I could see how at the end of this, Sandman would be like, have a serendipity moment and he's kind of like skipping and happy about life. But then, like, there's also that scene where that woman goes to check on her baby and the baby doesn't wake up.
Oh, that's one of the most brutal parts of that book, or
And I'm
that
like,
issue.
I don't like, I'm questioning a character. I don't care if they're like an immortal being that can see that and like 30 minutes later is skipping and whistling.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I can see what you're getting at, but I do think that that issue is really my. I mean, my favorite issue is the Shakespeare one. When you know, like I don't
The
want to.
Midsummer's Night's
Yeah.
Dream. I haven't gotten to it yet. But
Though,
I think Swamp Thing, if he
but
had
again,
gone with death and witnessed those things, I feel like he would have been a little bit more mortified by what he saw, even though he's not human. I feel like he has a stronger tether to humanity than someone like Morpheus.
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I'll give you that. I agree. He's because like Swamp Thing is kind of
He's a softie.
yeah.
He's a softie.
Yeah, he's kind of a hippie, actually. If you really think, like, he's kind of like the aged, like, he's Willie Nelson, basically.
Right.
Though it's funny, I always hear Alan's voice when I hear Swamp Thing now. It's kind of, I don't know.
And he, like, when he took over Gotham, like, no one really got that much hurt, and I think he could have, like,
He could have gone worse.
yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, Lex Luthor, come over here. We need a help problem." He's like,
It's
"I
only
got
whenever
you."
you like harm Abby Arcane that it's like you will probably die.
Yeah, yeah.
But like most other times he'll
Or like
as
that.
long as you're not harming women and children, he probably won't kill you.
Though he does get rid of the boogeyman in pretty fitting but kind of horrific fashion.
True. But I don't think anybody's losing any sleep over the
That's
boogeyman.
true. That's true. Yeah, he's not a nice man.
Oh, that was such a good issue.
That is a really good issue. I'm kind of with you. I really like those issues where he kind of takes these old like horror tropes, like the werewolf, the vampire, the kind of boogeyman in the night, or even kind of what else does he do? Well, not the toxic waste. I don't know if there's a lot of like toxic waste. Well, there are, but like not like Nuke Face.
I think honestly, like before reading Swamp Thing, the whole sort of like anthology horror aspect with the same character, I hadn't really read that and loved it as much as I did here. And even with stuff like Hellboy and BPRD, you kind of go into it knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know that this is paranormal investigation. Each week we're looking at a different thing. Swamp Thing almost has that similar structure to that.
That's interesting you say that, because I actually find that the Hellboy short stories are very similar to parts of this run, particularly in that like Mike is just kind of like, okay, let's see what works, sure, let's do a story about this weird creature with iron shoes, like, okay, or here's another one about a corpse,
right?
Greatest Hellboy story of all time. Like I like Hellboy.
But I think with Hellboy, it's like people go into that expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have, like Hellboy's on the cover, he's got his coat. It looks like, okay, we're doing a Freak of the Week thing. And like Swamp Thing does Freak of the Week, but it's like, it just brings a depth to the Freak of the Week that you don't usually see. And when you tell people like, oh, you should read Swamp Thing, they think it is mainly about the Swamp Thing being a monster. Whereas like, it really is an anthology series a lot of the time.
But it's also about like a being coming to peace with what he is, really. It's kind of what I find it's about as much.
Agreed.
It's kind of like,
and aside from anatomy lesson, it really what we get from Swamp Thing, the character, is a journey, that self-reflection, and most of the horror aspects are from characters surrounding Swamp Thing. Like Swamp Thing himself is not a horror creature within this run.
I mean, I'll say this: the Sandman kind of goes for a similar thing, kind of dream, kind of going like, okay, like what am I gonna do with my life? Because I was kind of a dickhead. Though his is more like I was kind of a dickhead in the past. I gotta clean up my act. Like I gotta do better than this. Swamp Thing's a little more like, well, shit, I'm not who I thought it was. Now I'm going to have to figure out who I am,
I think that's why I enjoy Swamp Thing more than Sandman. I think
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I like more heroic characters, which like Swamp Thing is like a murderer and he is like not a human and he is like not great. But like Morpheus like really could not be bothered about us
Yeah,
mortals.
yeah. It. I mean, one of my favorite parts of Sandman where he goes like, "Well, dreams are why people live," basically, which he's right. But anyway, again,
True.
I'm trying not to like, trying not to turn this into
True.
a Sandman conversation because
But
again, like
it's hard like it's hard for
it
me
is
not to
hard.
make those
Yeah.
comparisons because you can tell Neil Gaiman was so inspired by Swamp Thing.
As a matter of fact, there's a video he did years ago where he was talking about books that changed his life, and he literally talked about Swamp Thing in that run, or in that. In I think he actually does in my copies anyway. One of the forewords is actually from him.
Mm,
So, which I'm like, that makes sense. You know, like, I mean, I really like Gaiman. I think he's really good at what he does. But I would
agreed.
say Moore is I find Moore is the better writer.
Mhm.
I think I think Gaiman would even admit to this. I don't think Gaiman would contest that, um, but I think that like Moore he's less afraid to challenge himself. Like Gaiman kind of has
Right.
his little thing that he likes to do, and he's very good at that. But he kind of sticks to that thing, which is
Right.
fine. Nothing wrong with that. But
I still am so mad at him. Well, there's a lot of things we as a society should be mad at him for. But like why did you continue Miracle Man? Like
yeah, Miracle Man's
why
cursed,
did
man.
it keep why did you bring it back twice just for us to never like
Like
the
why?
ending was
Like
Silver
Miracle Man
Age?
is cursed, man. Like that's all I gotta say about that. So it's cursed, man. Like we're never gonna get the ending of that thing.
He did amazing work on Miracle Man, I will say. I really
I
liked
I read
Gaiman's
the first
edition.
volume. I'm like, yeah, this is good. But I've heard the Silver Age is just like banger, So maybe
Yeah,
I'll check it
Golden
out.
Age is like anthology, like true anthology, not Swamp Thing anthology. It's like true anthology. Like this is what a day in the life is like for us mortals.
In this
And,
superhero world, yeah.
and then Silver Age takes a character from Miracle Man, like the OG days, and brings them back, and it's really good. But literally, the end of Silver Age, like the last page, is like, and find the epic conclusion in Dark Age coming soon. And I'm like,
And Shaye is like, you bastards, no. Yeah, it's
you son of a like.
yeah, no, it's but yeah, no, I get what you're saying though. It is kind of hard to because even like Cain and Abel show up in this, which like that kind of caught me by surprise. Cause I was really I always thought of them with Sandman.
Right.
And then he kind of shows up like, oh hey, this is Abby, you know. That's a fun issue. I also really like the one where Etrigan shows up. I think we already kind of talked about this a little bit, but I like the one where Etrigan shows up and they like track down the little demon thing, and he's all like, Again,
I was
I'm really doing
so
terrible at pitching these.
I was so uneducated on DC when I like
Oh,
read
same.
Swamp
I'm
Thing.
like, bro, like Alan Moore is just pulling out the freaking hands, man.
I thought Etrigan was the creature haunting the child.
Yeah.
Like I didn't connect it until later. I'm like when he was like fighting alongside Swamp Thing, I was like, wait, you're not the bad guy.
Yeah,
And in the
no.
cover,
I mean,
they have to sensationalize it. So in the cover, it's Etrigan fighting Swamp Thing.
I already knew Etrigan because I watched the Justice League cartoon. He shows up a couple times in that, so I'm like, okay, I know who he is. But yeah, in this, like, Etrigan's a douche, man. He's just straight up like, he's all like, "Hey, you're gonna die in a couple days," and then later he's like, "Oh, sorry about that. Forget I was here."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "What?" Yeah,
I think that issue opens as like the devil came to town.
yeah,
So I was like, oh, this is a really bad guy. And speaking of the devil, doesn't Swamp Thing? I was thinking of this in the first volume of Sandman as
yeah.
well.
He does go to hell. Yeah.
Yeah,
Another one
I
of
was
my
like,
favorite little moments is when Anton is like being tortured. He's like, "Oh, Holland, how long have I been here?" And he's all like, "A few days." He's like, hasn't it been like years? And he's like, you've only been here for like 3 days. He's like, oh my god, oh no. He's like, later. Just pant and just walks off. Yeah.
Wasn't he like Abby's uncle?
Yeah, and like one of the real hardcore parts of Swamp Thing is where like he takes over like Matt, who again you might recognize from the Sandman. He's Dream's Raven. But he's also kind of, he's also like, oh man, like what am I gonna, Well, he like possesses Matthew, and there's this again. You mentioned this actually earlier. Like, there's a part where the Fly talks to him while he's like seriously injured. He's like, "Well, I can help you with that," and he's like, "Fine." And he like goes up his nose, and it's really, I don't like it. I don't know what you think about it, but it's like, oh, nope, not in the canals. Please don't do that. Oh, he's doing it.
I also, so when we like volume 1, we get Abby and Matt, and then we get those 2 other characters. So I'm blanking on their names.
Yeah, one's like the
But,
hippie
like,
dude.
Yeah, they like seemingly get exploded, and then we don't see them again until like volume 4 or 5.
He's like, yo, man, you should take these magic yams, man. Very like 1960s, hippie guy.
Yeah. If you were to see his design, is like the stereotype.
Yeah. And then Abby's like, I'm gonna take the yam. He's like, yeah, man, it'll open your eyes. And then she takes it and starts like, she's like, Alec, where are you? He's like, I'm in space. And she's like, oh no. It's like, oh no. But yeah, no, oh god, what am I missing? He does do kind of an event comic. That's when like Constantine shows up, and like, oh, there's this evil force, and we got to push it back, which was good, but it was kind of underwhelming. I thought a little bit.
I agree completely. For as much buildup was around it, because he was like sending them all over.
Like, this is like a big deal. They're just like, oh man, like this is bad, and then it's just like they do like a seance, and then it's over. You're like, what? That sucks. You can do better than this more.
Yeah. It should have been like one of the big events of his run, and it was just kind of like, it was good, but I could have done with less foreshadowing and lead up. Like, it just felt as eventful as any of his issues. So the build up kind of seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, it was just kind of, and then like I think it gets better once like they're like, oh crap, Abby and Swamp Thing, they're canoodling, and someone caught him, and it goes really terribly for everyone.
Oh man, I hated that so much.
Yeah, it sucked.
It pissed me off because everybody's like, she's a pervert. She was there with kids. I'm like, that was a completely consenting tree.
It was like, hold on a minute.
That tree spirit was a consenting adult. These are both consenting adults. There are bigger fish to fry in our world, right?
Like, to be fair, that is a pretty normal. That would be kind of a normal, like, I don't know, but it's not fun.
I say good for Swamp Thing.
And then of course, like Swamp Thing, and then of course someone's like, okay, you know how we get Swamp Thing out of hiding? We're gonna kidnap Abby Arcane, and then it turns into this whole thing. He goes to Gotham, turns it into a forest. Even Batman's like, I can't do shit here. Like, I can't do anything. We need to give her back. We need to find Abby Arcane, give her back to Swamp Thing, and we'll be fine. Everyone's like, okay. And then he gets like zapped. I
wonder what Poison Ivy was doing when Swamp Thing was gumming up the works in Gotham.
That was probably the time of her life, man. She was probably like, yes, finally.
I think in the new Absolute Batman, she's like the spirit of the green.
Really? I haven't read Absolute Batman yet because I'm a trade waiter, and the trades have just taken forever to get out, and I'll have to pick it up soon.
This is all hearsay. I have not read it either.
It's January 1984 is when it started. So okay, but yeah, no, it's that's a really, I think that was the last like really really good Swamp Thing story was when. Well, I like the ending, but
yeah. Volume 6 for me, it was like
It is
not
shaky.
bad, but not amazing. And then the final issue was amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely shaky because I think Alan was starting Watchmen at that point, and he's like, okay, I gotta wrap this up somehow.
Yeah. I love that he didn't have like Swamp Thing like dissolve into the woods or have Abby Arcane die. It's just like, yeah, they're just lying down in Louisiana somewhere, and well, they're do they get up to some more shenanigans? Maybe, who knows? Anyway, goodbye. And I was like, that is the ending I wanted and needed.
Yeah, it's probably like it's his nicest ending that he's given, like aside from like whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, where it's kind of like this is kind of happy. Okay,
Yeah.
more. I see you, you old softy, you old softy, you.
Not all doom and gloom.
It's yeah, no, it's fantastic. I really, but yeah, no, those like I like the Adam Strange issue where Adam Strange and Swamp Thing. Like I really like the art in that where he kind of plays with Swamp Thing's powers on other planets. I really like that. But yeah, some of them are just kind of misfire or not misfires, but they didn't really affect me as much as like the issues that came before. You know.
Agreed.
Where it was just kind of like, man, like there was another like, or it was another where I was kind of like, Alan, you can do better than this. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then there's like one issue where it's like Abby and Anton kind of reunite again, and then or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. But that one was kind of like, what? Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Anton possesses Matthew, who is Abby's husband. And then Anton, like, gets with Abby, which, yikes. That's all I gotta say. Probably the most disturbing part of this, he's like, oh, ha ha ha, I was Matthew the whole time. And she just has, like, a full meltdown. And then he kills her, sends her to hell, and is basically like, fuck you, Swamp Thing. I got the better of you. And then, he puts Matthew out of his misery, basically, and gets rid of Anton Arcane for good. And then that's what sends him to hell. Which also a great moment is when he meets Alec Holland again. Like the actual, Alec Holland. That was a really great moment as well. I really like that one.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, meeting Alec Holland.
He's like, oh, you were me. And he's like, well, I thought I was you, but I guess not. And he's like, well, good luck on your journey, buddy. And he's like, thanks. And he like walks off. It's like, it's really nice,
Really made like it's kind of crazy thinking like we actually someone like me who did not read the original run had zero time with Alec, but like even somebody who's been an avid Swamp Thing fan, like the time we actually get with Alec since we have this retcon is almost none. And
yeah,
then
because
we've been with
Swamp Thing is not Alec Holland. It's Swamp Thing is another thing entirely, but it like I forget how he explains it in the anatomy. Like it like gained his memories somehow.
It didn't even have anything to do with the chemicals, right? It was just the green.
Yeah, it was the green that like connected it with its memories. Yeah.
And we mentioned this isn't the first time this has happened. There have been other Guardians of the Green.
Yes, yeah. That's even more interesting. You're like, yeah, like I'd like this. Yeah, I'm like, but yeah, no, that happens. But yeah, he ends up going to hell, and which again, if you're a Sandman reader, you will probably have a lot of fun with those issues because, well, he doesn't have a game with the devil or anything, but he does go through hell and finds all the strange, wacky characters who live over there.
He doesn't have a story off with the demon.
No. No, he doesn't, unfortunately. But,
I really hope Swamp Thing gets more traction because a lot of people who love Sandman, I'm like, you probably haven't heard of Swamp Thing.
I'm like, you should read Alan Moore Swamp Thing because that's where Neil Gaiman got a lot of the ideas from. Well, some at first, anyway. I do think,
within the first two volumes, it's very Swamp Thing coded. I can't speak for the rest of it, and I hear that it goes in a pretty different direction. But the first two volumes, definite Swamp Thing inspiration.
Oh, for sure.
I think
I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, it'd be a tough point to argue against. Like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna be like, no, Neil Gaiman, no, but yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
yeah,
Plus, I think Gaiman would acknowledge this as well. So I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying that like Neil Gaiman's like, oh, I don't know who Alan Moore is. Bag over my head.
yeah. Me saying like, oh, Neil Gaiman borrowed this from Alan Moore. Like, I'm not like besmirching him because Neil Gaiman would be like, yeah,
He's like, yeah,
like
you're
he would,
right.
yeah,
Which
he'd
is
be like,
why I'm trying to like get you because I've had a hard time trying to reach David. I'm like, yo, you should try to get David to get in the Swamp Thing.
I was talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, I'll order it. So he seemed pretty open to it. He's like, is it as long as Sandman? I'm like, no, dude, Sandman is an
I was about to
incredibly long
say,
comic.
yeah, no, it's like I think Swamp Thing is like 40, almost 50 issues. Alan Moore's Swamp Thing anyway. I think it's almost 50. I don't remember. Sandman's
Sandman's
75.
like 75.
Yeah.
Sandman's long.
Yeah, no, like yeah, it's an epic for sure. Yeah, Sandman's an epic, but Swamp Thing is this just kind of weird thing. But yeah, no, the ending though of Swamp Thing, the Alan Moore, I do really like that. I do think it's a great. I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know how Alan came up with it, but he made it work.
It's probably my favorite ending of any of his comics. Maybe because I'm just a
I was about to
softie.
say
Like
I would put
Watchmen, I'm
I
like,
was about
this
to
is
say
depressing.
I was about
And
to say
then
I think Watchmen is a better ending, but I see what you're getting from it. It definitely it is I do think it is a
when I
satisfying
first
ending.
finished Watchmen, I was like, this is so depressing. And when I finished Miracle Man, I was like, Watchmen wasn't that depressing. I was like, actually, let me walk that back.
Well, Miracle Man's definitely the one that makes me like. It's the one that haunts me the most. I'll say that.
It keeps me up at
That's
night
the one
of
that
all
haunts
the
me the
endings.
most. I'll save
Him
that
sitting
for
on Mount Olympus like this, I'm like, you evil son of a.
yeah.
Like,
No, I'll save that for when we do a Miracle Man conversation. But
yeah.
but I do think Swamp Thing. I'm sure there's other books where Alan has had happy endings. Actually, I know there's some. Like, again, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow is a relative bittersweet ending, but relatively happy ending.
How many issues is that?
2. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It's only 2.
Okay, I need to check that out.
There's there's a book called DC Stories of Alan Moore. It has Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow in it, and also the other really great Superman story he did called For the Man Who Has Everything, which is just 1 issue, and it's great. And it's him and Dave Gibbons, Watchmen team, back together again. That's a really great issue too. No, that's not a happy ending though. Again, there's probably happy endings that Moore has done. I can't think of them at the moment. I can't, but Swamp Thing is one that pops to mind for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just it's such a great read. Like, it's not, it's not like Invincible where you can kind of, where it's like, oh my gosh, you're flipping through figuring out what's going to happen next. Like, it's definitely one where you have to like kind of sit down and digest it a little more.
Right.
But man, I think it's worth it. It's
and then you're talking about for spooky season, I think it's perfect.
Oh,
if you wanted to like read some horror stories throughout the month of October, you can get like a different flavor of horror. Like,
yeah, you can literally
almost
just like
from issue to issue.
I mean, maybe not like, the anatomy. I mean, well, the anatomy lesson I think stands on its own, but it is part of a kind of bigger arc. But like, yeah, you can just kind of flip over a couple of the Swamp Thing arcs, like, you can go to the werewolf one, you'll have fun with that, you can kind of go back and, you could do that. Definitely can. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny. I compared it when I was first reading it. I kind of compared it to the X-Files a little bit.
Yeah.
Except it has a mucking crusted monstrosity instead of, Mulder and Scully.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Swamp Thing. I mean, what else do you have to say about Swamp Thing that you haven't already said?
I think that covers all my bases. I just love I love the story of Swamp Thing. I love the characters, the romance of it, the horror of it. I haven't really felt compelled to read more Swamp Thing since then.
Yeah, right. So you're
I
just like, how can anyone live up to this? You know, like,
Mhm. I'm thinking about trying the Rom V stuff because I've really been jiving with some of his stuff, and I know he is in really
I
big.
I know you love Tom King. I would highly recommend picking up the Winter Special. It is
Oh, that's a given.
magnificent. It is
If it's
truly
Tom King,
magnificent.
it's a given.
It's magnificent. It's only just one issue, so you can like. I mean, it'll probably be hard to find because like, well, probably not. But it's probably not going to be like I'm going to shut my mouth. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just one issue,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
I could probably find it. I could probably I would never pirate an issue. Ever.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that here for legal reasons. What are you doing? So I
Yeah,
will.
I mean, if it's a single issue, Tom King has gotten his money. You see my absolute
That
Mr.
is
Miracle.
yeah. No,
He's
it's
gotten his money from me. I'll check out the Winter Special. That's all I'll say.
Scott Snyder's run is pretty good, though. Again, they kind of walk back because I kind of because it is kind of Alec Holland and Swamp Thing rather than just like it's this plant elemental who thought he was a man.
Mhm.
I'm kind of like, I wish you hadn't walked that back because it's so interesting.
That was the New 52 era Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
right?
Um,
I'll say Scott Snyder. I know he's getting a lot of love right now for Absolute Batman, which I haven't checked out yet. But
if you want another good spooky read, Witches from Scott Snyder. I think that's his best book. Like,
I also know he did American Vampire, but I haven't read that.
Yeah,
yet.
that's a fun one. It's good if you want like a good like pulpy, kind of fun thing.
But my main thing with Scott Snyder, I don't think his storytelling is as cerebral as I want for a Swamp Thing. He's very much like boom bam pow, like big action, big moments. Like that's,
and also,
that's
I
what
think
his
that
Batman
run kind of,
was like.
that run kind of peters out towards the end, and it doesn't quite have that like saving grace of like the ending of like more Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, more kind of ruined Swamp Thing for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
ruined a lot of superhero comics for me for a while. I mean, there's not really like a run that I've read that with like this much depth, aside from like maybe Bendis's Daredevil, or let me think. Trying not to stick to Marvel here. What's another one I really like? Damn, I can't think of one at the moment.
Trying to think of a superhero comic.
Maybe you know what? I'll grant you one. I'm sure you'll like this. Maybe Mr. Miracle comes really close, or even the Vision, which is my favorite Tom King thing.
The Vision's really good.
We'll have to have like a Tom King off. We'll be like, no, the Vision's his best work, and then you can go, no, Mr. Miracle's the best. That we can do that. But
no, Helen of what? No, I'm kidding.
No, that reminds me, I need to get you on for that. But yeah, no, I don't really think there's much else to say for Swamp Thing. I mean, it's easily in my top 5 like comic book runs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It is Alan Moore at his best, at least. Well, a good bit of it is Alan Moore at his best, and it is again probably my favorite like superhero deconstruction that he's ever done. I would say I
really high highs, and even the lows are like still good.
Yeah, they're still fascinating. At least like
it never peters into like mid or mediocre. Like his mediocre is still like the average author's good to great. So even that final volume with like the weird plant people and stuff, that is still better than a lot of authors' best work. So I
mean, they did recolor the like omnibuses, but like if you could get the volumes that I have here, the art in them is just magnificent all the way through.
Agreed.
The colors, just like look at this. Hope you guys can see that. I mean, look at that shading right there. It's insane. Tajana Wood, man. She was actually married to Wally Wood, the great comic book illustrator. I didn't know that till just recently, but she did a cracker of a job with the entire. I don't know if she did the entire run, but she did a lot of it, and it is magnificent. Really, really is. especially when like John Toddleben does really good. Like here's another like creepy like just look at that like that dude's face. That poor guy.
Mhm.
He's just like a normal like nerd of the occult, but like just like look at that. Look at the pores and like the gap in his tooth and like his eyes are all like it's I don't know how they did that, but it's sorry. I mean, I could geek out about Swamp Thing for a while because it's magnificent.
Yep.
Agreed. But I don't want to like hold you hostage here because I know you had a time limit.
Yep. It's getting close to my bedtime.
Yeah.
And I got my exam coming up. So.
Oh man. Well, good luck with that. But I think that's it though, man. Shaye, thank you. I'm glad we got this together.
Thank you, Britton. It's always a blast to talk about Swamp Thing, especially because I don't feel like anybody else in the booktube space has really read stuff like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It's
if you're a fan of the Sandman, I'll just say this: if you're a fan of the Sandman, read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It is just as
brainer.
It is just as good, I think. And
it's better.
And like
for me, it's better.
There are even parts of it I will grant that are better. Like I don't think Neil Gaiman could have done Pog, personally speaking.
He would have added some weird sex stuff into Pog. Like he probably would have had the alligators do some dastardly stuff. And you'd just be like, why did you do this?
I'm sure if it were Sandman and he did something like Pog, like Morpheus would be like, whatever, idiot, and leave.
I feel like Moore, he's like, boom, this is horrific. Now think about the ramifications for humanity. Whereas Neil Gaiman's like, boom, now add some weird sex stuff. And I'm like,
well, hold on. There's some weird sex stuff in Alan Moore too, but I won't get into that. But I get what you're saying.
But like, Gaiman's is like a little bit more depraved. I'm like, whoa, this isn't the weird sex stuff I'm okay with.
No, but I'll let you go now. Shaye, as I like to do before the end of these things, if you have any social media, feel free to share them. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at Zachary Shaye, a very cleverly named YouTube channel.
I think it's beautiful, sir. Shaye's a wonderful name.
That's oh, and I have an Instagram, also Zachary Shaye, or Zach _Shaye, something like that. Put it into the search.
I was about to say, I am glad we're wrapping this up now because I am starting to get hungry. So but Shaye, thank you, sir, for accompanying me. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know like how I could have done the Swamp Thing series in a review. Like that would have been hard. So I'm glad we got here together as of a mutual appreciation of this series.
A celebration, if you will.
Yes, a celebration. That's a great word. You're so smart, Shaye.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway,
I try. You're so smart, Britton.
Thank you, Shaye. Anyway, well, until next time, hopefully I will have Shaye on again. It will probably happen at some point. Especially Mr. Miracle. I got to get you on to talk about that.
Spread the good gospel.
Yeah, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and well, until next time, I don't really have much more to say.
Peace.
Yep.